Prime Ministers will also proceed with the introduction of digital ID that will modernize how citizens interact with public services.
Every adult will need a new government-issued digital ID.
A digital ID.
Having all of your personal information stored in one place.
We will spare no effort to make Europe an AI continent.
To integrate you into this great reset.
So how soon could central bank digital currencies become a reality?
We should be helping countries to develop a national digital infrastructure.
Imagine every purchase you make, every app you use, every place you visit, all contributing to a single digital profile, a personal digital identity. This way, many details of your life could be stored in a unified digital record. That profile might eventually connect with your bank, your doctor, your employer, government agencies, and even your car. This isn't science fiction. It's a vision that organizations like the World Economic Forum are advocating, and that governments and tech companies are gradually moving toward. The rollout of this digital ID infrastructure is truly global and coordinated. Oracle founder and billionaire Larry Ellison emphasizes the need to feed AI systems an immense amount of all available government data.
For what government should do in terms of its digital infrastructure, digital ID, data centers, and so on.
The first thing a country needs to do is to unify all of their data so it can be consumed and used by the AI model. Basically, I have to tell the AI model as much about my country as I can. If you want to improve population health, you have to take all of your healthcare data, your diagnostic data, your electronic health records, your genomic data.
The benefits are clear. Digital ID will make our interactions with each other and with the state faster, cheaper, and more reliable. Facial recognition can now spot suspects in real time from live video, tracking organized criminals at borders, in public spaces, even helping find missing people. But Keir Starmer recently told his cabinet and the media that he is considering plans for a mandatory digital ID scheme after influential Labour think tanks, including the Tony Blair Institute, piled on the pressure.
But I think that 20 years or so on, a couple of decades on, people are looking differently about the idea of digital, then cards, probably more digital ID now.
And last week, the new Home Secretary, Shabana Mahmood, confirmed her support for digital ID.
My long-term personal political view has always been in favour of ID cards.
No one voted for digital ID, and the government has no clear mandate to implement one. Yet now we're on the brink of having every adult in the UK forced into a digital ID scheme, inserting the state into our everyday lives. A digital ID is much different to a physical ID. They facilitate the collection of vast quantities of personal information into population-wide databases, which can be amalgamated, searched, and analyzed to monitor, track, and profile us all. So, what does the public think?
Sounds pretty Orwellian to me, so I think keep it away.
There's so many things that they are trying to make us scared of. It's control under the guise of safety, and I'm not quite sure I agree with that. I don't know if I want my child's information on a piece of card where somebody else can get hold of it.
Tony Blair is a technocrat. He believes basically that the people at the top need to decide everything themselves, and if you could have total control over everybody, everything would be wonderful. This is a Chinese model.
Oracle co-founder Larry Ellison predicts AI surveillance will be part of our everyday lives in the future. Ellison said AI will soon play a major role in monitoring society through a vast network of interconnected cameras.
The police will be on their best behavior because we're constantly recording, watching and recording everything that's going on. Citizens will be on their best behavior because we're constantly recording and reporting everything that's going on.
But what it will do is create the digital control infrastructure, which then lays the groundwork for all your activities and all of your behavior to be managed by the government and for you to be rewarded or disincentivized in relation to certain behavior. That is the Chinese social credit system, where if you are a good citizen, quote unquote, you can do things that other people cannot do. And if you're a bad citizen, quote unquote, you can't even buy a train ticket to go to a different city. This is where it's going.
That tells me I'm still on the blacklist.
Punished because he's been branded untrustworthy by the state.
Once you're blacklisted, you can no longer get a bank loan, start a business, buy an apartment, or even send your children to a private school.
So the latest in this dystopian outrage that is now all of China, apparently, is I once again cannot buy food. A couple days ago, my uncle and my cousin helped me get a cell phone that is linked to a Chinese bank card so that I could buy anything. But now, apparently, it has been flagged for some reason that I have to pass facial recognition identity verification, which is insane, because all I want to do is just spend my gift card balance on this debit card. I can't believe I'm doing this. I have to open my mouth. Oh my God. Terrifying. But now I once again can't buy anything.
Welcome to the digital skies. Apple and Android phones now allowing users to create a digital ID on their phones that serves as a real ID and can be used going through TSA checkpoints at more than 250 airports in the United States.
My name, my date of birth. Okay, double click to confirm. Face ID.
Face the camera phone, please. Thank you, you're all set.
All right, thank you.
To see this in action, look at China. Some pilot dystopian cities are evolving into highly monitored environments. Cameras track most of your movements, sensors follow patterns of behavior, and algorithms influence what people can buy, where they can travel, and even whom they interact with.
If you thought the way Facebook tracks you was scary, it's got nothing on the Chinese government. Chinese government insists it has a great reason for doing this.
Here, in this Shanghai surveillance center, no resident goes unwatched.
As a good citizen, I respect the rules of the road. If I didn't, I'd lose points on my social credit.
It forces us to be well behaved.
It may seem scary, but it's just like that here. We're used to it. And anyway, we don't have a choice. But people with low scores lose rights. The cinema names and shames people considered untrustworthy, plastering their details, even their addresses, across big screens.
All of this is presented as serving the greater good, saving the environment, reducing crime, and creating a more efficient society. What does a fully connected surveillance state really look like? These pilot cities have an all-seeing system with virtually no escape. Faces have become keys to access buildings and services. There's nowhere to hide, as everything is monitored. Smartphones, smart cars, smart buildings, all interconnected.
This talk of centralized digital currency, that's what they have in China. If you up in China and you get a bad social credit score because you tweeted something they didn't like, now you can't buy a plane ticket. Now you can't buy a car. Now you can't get a loan. Now you can't do something. You step the line and people self-censor.
While this is unfolding thousands of miles away, similar developments are emerging in the West. Digital identity programs, surveillance grids, real-time tracking, complex databases, and carbon footprint systems. This is an ever-growing concern, as many of these initiatives are gradually moving from pilot projects into real-world implementation.
We'll make a new free-of-charge digital ID mandatory for the right to work.
Western countries are rapidly developing their own digital ID programs. The UK has announced a national digital ID scheme.
We need to be really clear. You must have ID, mandatory digital ID, in order to work.
This technology has advanced amazingly. To make the most of this new and revolutionary technology.
The British people view this whole digital ID as an Orwellian nightmare.
Yeah, these are pushing digital ID on these people, and then they'll be able to control your movement and control you entirely.
This is your wake-up call. This is about building a centralized, state-controlled digital identity system that could be used, will be used, to link your finances, your medical history, your travel movements, your social media activity, even your social activity in real life, and more. It's quite frankly a digital dog tag, and once it's clipped around your neck, you will not be able to take it off.
My ministers will also proceed with the introduction of digital ID that will modernize how citizens interact with public services.
Let me spell that out. You will not be able to work in the United Kingdom if you do not have digital ID. It's as simple as that.
Can you imagine that in 10 years when we are sitting here, we have an implant in our brains, and I can immediately feel, because you all will have implants, and we measure your brain waves. You do not even have to have elections anymore, because you can already predict, and afterwards you can say, why do we need elections? Because we know what the result will be.
But this is the way the world is going, whether we like it or not. You know, people are being asked, as we discussed earlier, to prove their prove their identity one way or another digitally, whether we like it or not. Education, healthcare is going in that direction. So we're either going to be on top of this and leading it in the world, or we're going to be left behind.
The risk now is that we've got to get the focus of government back on these questions, because they will determine our future. And, you know, this is a world in which you look at America and that Inflation Reduction Act, right? That is, by the way, a piece of revolutionary legislation. It's going to put America right at the forefront of modern technology and climate. You've got China on the other side with the potential to do huge things on AI because of the way that they're going to use data, and Europe's trying to catch up. So where does Britain find its niche in this new world? So this isn't utopian. This is real world things that are happening. I think there's a huge impetus now for a national digital infrastructure. Digitization in healthcare is, I think, one of the great game changers. You know, we should be helping countries to develop a national digital infrastructure, which they will need with these new vaccines. You need the data. You need to know who's been vaccinated and who hasn't been. Some of the vaccines that will come on down the line will be there'll be multiple shots. So you've got to have, for reasons to do with the healthcare more generally, but certainly for a pandemic or for vaccines, you've got to have a proper digital infrastructure, and many countries don't have that. In fact, most countries don't have that.
With a new digital ID system. Under the framework, the WEF proposes collecting data from many aspects of people's everyday lives. That's a quote. Through their devices, telecommunication networks, and third-party service providers. The WEF suggests that this data collection dragnet would allow a digital ID, now listen to this, it's very narrow. It would allow a digital ID to scoop up data on people's online behavior, purchase history, network usage, credit history, biometrics, names, national identity numbers, and medical history. Plus your travel history, social accounts, e-government accounts, bank accounts, energy uses, health stats, education, and I love this one, and more. What's left? Once the digital ID has access to this huge, highly personal set of data, the WEF proposes using it to decide whether users are allowed to, quote, own and use devices, quote, open bank accounts, quote, carry out online financial transactions, quote, conduct business transaction, quote, access insurance and treatment, book trips, still quoting, go through border control between countries or regions, Still quoting, access third-party services that rely on social media logins, file taxes, vote, collect benefits, end quote.
When I started this job, there were actually very little countries in Africa or Latin America that had one ubiquitous type of ID, and certainly that it was digital, and certainly that it was biometric. And we really work with all our partners to actually help that being, to grow this. And the interesting part of it is that, yes, it is very necessary for financial services, but not only. Sure. It's also good for school enrollment, it's also good for health, who actually got a vaccination or not. It's very good to get your subsidies, from the government.
Another place that India leads, but there's a lot more that all of you can be involved in driving forward, is this digital public infrastructure. No country is more able to take government benefits and get them out efficiently and effectively to their citizens than India. And so that basic structure that starts with identity and bank accounts and payments is just foundational. And as part of this visit, I'm now seeing how that foundation is being built out in agriculture with profiles of farmers to understand what they need and give them advice, built out with health records so that we can help people not only with infectious diseases, but the challenge that's coming in the future.
Well, speaking of the UK Prime Minister Sir Keir Starmer is in India and has met with the architect of India's digital ID system. He met with Nandan Nilekani and was then speaking how wonderful digital ID is. Just look how fantastic India is. He said, there is a case to be made about the benefits for voluntary ID into other areas, and obviously we need to make that case. We're going to a country, India, where they've already done ID and made a massive success of it. So when Starmer says India has done digital ID, that is very true, but their digital ID goes so far beyond just a digitization of records or your license. No, they track your residential address. They have biometric data on every single citizen. 1.3 billion people are using this thing. You need a digital ID to access any government payments, to enroll in schools, to go to hospitals. And this is a whole of society thing that is required to even function in India. Now, Keir Starmer's gone off there and gone, see, look how well digital ID is going. Oh. If India is your example, the UK is in trouble.
The UK is getting digital ID, but here in India, they've had it for years.
It holds the bank details, it holds every government authorities and every details of a person in it.
You trust this digital ID card?
I don't, but it's compulsory. We have to do it. There is no other option for us.
They can track it very easily, and I think so. Okay, they can track us.
Does that worry you?
Yeah, little bit. Just because they are just one click away from our information, and it's like a privacy issue.
What's happening here matters because Keir Starmer has met the boss of the company that runs Indian Digital ID. Could their work be coming to the UK soon?
I spoke to the boss of Infosys yesterday about the successful rollout of digital ID in India. What lessons did you take away from that conversation?
The speed with which it allows citizens here to access services, particularly financial services, is something that was recognised in our discussions, and in particular the benefits that it has brought in India.
Over 3 million people have signed petitions against digital ID. Keir Starmer will be hoping that people come round to it, like they have done here.
And so it's really learning what worked in China and India, and now making it easy for even smaller countries to do this, working with a lot of partners, including the World Bank, African Development Bank, many of them. So private sector will help these central banks create these systems, but moreover, the phone companies, the banks, and the entrepreneurs will build applications that use these financial capabilities.
A revolutionary change that gave a digital identity to each and every person, without any discrimination of caste, creed, class, or of being rich or poor.
This is the reality for most people living in India at the moment. And I know because I handed mine over when I lived there too.
This is none other than the world's largest digital identity revolution. Aadhaar. My Aadhaar. My identity.
And I'm not the only one. 99% of Indians, according to the department that governs this biometric system, have signed up. That's a whopping 1.3 billion people. It means my most personal details went into this immense Aadhaar database. Now, the Indian government says it's to enable more people, especially the poor, to access government and financial services like food rations or bank accounts.
Whereas earlier, one needed a number of cards for different tasks. Today, all identity-related work can be done with Aadhaar.
But technology and privacy researchers say this allows surveillance at a scale that's not been seen before in a democracy.
It surprises me immensely how casually this project is being just, spread across all kinds of domains, all manner of databases being made, everything being linked up using the UID number.
Usha Ramanathan is a lawyer and human rights activist who's been campaigning against Aadhaar.
It surprises me because, it's only very recently that we had a newspaper recognizing that a breach of this kind of data is a national security threat. Many people can get at it and you won't even know.
Getting my Aadhaar card was pretty simple. I just went to one of the government centers, scanned each of my fingers, did an iris scan, and then went on my way. But I pretty much felt like I had to, because it wasn't really clear what the consequences would be if I didn't. Would I be able to use my bank account? Would I be able to use my phone? There was just a lot of uncertainty.
And what is very interesting in this is how all the way to the bottom, from the top, the system absorbed this. And so anywhere you went, they would say, no, you have to give your UID number or else we can't give you yourself. So it was a lot of bullying, scaring people, fear-mongering, coercion.
Widespread digital ID is first. Big government has massively begun ramping this up, pushing digital ID on the entire world. USAID has an entire section on digital identity, and it even includes a document that basically instructs foreign governments how to brainwash their people into thinking they need it. Now, I know Media Matter is going to have a field day with that statement, but how else do you describe when our government is providing detailed instructions on, quote, framing the question, crafting the narrative, and finally how to socialize and adapt populations to the use of digital ID? Digital identity is already being rolled out here in the United States. Most of us didn't even know we're helping it because it's being listed as convenient, so we do it. TSA has added facial recognition to TSA pre-check. How many of us use it for the convenience? And when you compare that with what's happening in Europe, how long before this is all converted as a travel requirement?
So this is Revelation 13, 16 through 17. Also, it causes all, both great and small, both rich and poor, both free and slave, to be marked on the right hand or the forehead. And I'm going to talk about the 666 thing here in a second, so that no one can buy or sell unless he has the mark, that is the name of the beast or the number of his name. Now, I'm going to talk about what that actually might mean here in a second. But dude, I'm just going to point this out, man. What that's saying is there's going to be one world. It appears. Some Bible scholars, a lot of Bible scholars would say, it appears like there's going to be a one-world economic system, and the economic system will be constructed in such a way so that without some kind of mark or identifying, this is a really important word, identifying feature, you won't be able to engage in commerce in that economy. All right, bro, if you didn't know this, dude, this is crazy, man. This kind of thing, cut me open, I'm red, white, and blue, small government, that's me. This right here is a video of, this is Keir Starmer. They're trying to institute this in the EU right now, this thing called digital ID. Now, Keir Starmer has either clearly never read Revelation 13 or he read it and he's like, I'd like to be the Antichrist. So let's check this out.
And that is why today I am announcing this government will make a new free of charge digital ID mandatory for the right to work.
Mandatory for
at the end of this parliament. Let me spell that out. You will not be able to work in the United Kingdom if you do not have digital ID. It's as simple as that.
Wow. Bro.
Because decent, pragmatic, fair-minded people, they want us to tackle the issues that they see around them. And of course, the truth is...
All right, you can cut it.
We won't...
Bro.
Quoting Revelation here.
It's like someone read Revelation 13, 16, and 17 and was like, let me show you how to. So you got it right there, man. So by the way, you have one world government. You see stuff like that with organizations like WHO, World Health Organization, WEF, World Economic Forum, and that's why we've talked about this before on the pod. So I won't go in this. God does nationalism, Satan does globalism in the Bible, because we were talking about Babel. because humankind has a sin nature. We're rebellious by nature, and God knew that if mankind ever unified, we would unify in rebellion against him. Okay, so that's it. So there you go. One world economic system.
The idea is purely a control mechanism. If they wanted to stop immigration, illegal immigration, well, they could. And if they can't, they're incompetent, and who wants them anyway? And if they wanted to stop fraud, well, the most people who commit fraud are the billionaires and the oligarchs. So, it's just all smoke screens for more and more control. So digital ID, as I've been saying, is a global construct, certainly in the West. Well, it's a global construct. And actually, here in this country, they say, it's to stop illegal immigration. But we know from the UN documents that you can go and look up, the UN, that they have a plan. It's called the Migration Plan, and it's basically deliberate bringing in of migrants to the West in order to subvert the culture, in order to get rid of this notion of borders and nationhood. They don't want people standing up for their countries and their nations. It's a very bizarre thing, and it's all part of an overarching 2030 generally the UN 2030 agenda, which is to effectively enslave the whole world, and digital ID is a part of it. The same with all the cameras everywhere, every which way, and we have to resist it. It's difficult for people to understand this. It's very easy to compartmentalize, but even if you do just only think of digital ID as something that's happening in this country and going to affect you, for that reason alone you should stand up for it, because you will have not one vestige of freedom left, nor will your children or your grandchildren. And remember all those poor people, young people who were slaughtered in the World Wars for freedoms, and we're just giving them away. Cash is king, as someone has just said. Cash is the only element of freedom you've got left, and they're trying to get rid of it. And even if they don't say, you can't use it, it'll become more and more difficult. But the digital ID, with the digital funds, the digital currency is part of the overarching UN 2030 agenda, which is the total enslavement of the global population, difficult though it may be to understand, plus including depopulation, which is another thing people don't want to understand, that there is an effort, there's a move to actually kill off a lot of people. And if you think how many people are sick, we can see that might be true.
He has two major statements that he says over and over again. Vaccines are the greatest return on investment I've ever had. And my number one goal and the biggest issue of our time is overpopulation.
Yes.
Right? We need to reduce population. He doesn't say that accidentally. They needed the TED Talk where the heart of it is how through modern medicine and vaccines, we can reduce the population of the world.
First, we've got population. The world today has 6.8 billion people. That's headed up to about 9 billion. Now, if we do a really great job on new vaccines, healthcare, reproductive health services, we could lower that by perhaps 10 or 15%.
That is a statement that came out of his mouth. I'm paraphrasing, not exactly, but they try to retract it. And then in the next video, he's doing a whole thing on how we need to reduce the population of the world.
How there's too many people, it's causing the problem. All the problems.
There's a coordinated global policy push for digital IDs as the new form of government-issued identification credentials. And they're essentially all based on your biometric data, which can be your fingerprints, your face, the iris of your eyeball. And the idea is essentially to collect all of that data and have it housed or have it tied directly to your digital ID. So your physical ID will be mapped to the digital ID. Digital IDs are not really a separate project from CBDCs and this new digital financial system. And UN documentation and also documentation from the Bank of International Settlements, they very overtly state that CBDCs and digital IDs are meant to go together. And without digital IDs, the CBDC digital finance system cannot exist. They have to know who you are. And so they want to have your wallet tied to a digital ID and have that digital ID be mapped to your physical ID through the biometric data collection.
Și acum o informație de ultimă oră.
Statul pregătește supravegherea în masă a populației.
Este vorba despre un proiect care a fost adoptat tacit de Camera Deputaților, prin care instituțiile cu atribuții în asigurarea securității naționale să supravegheze fiecare mișcare făcută de români în mediul online.
Astfel, din structurile din Serviciul Român de Informații, Serviciul de Informații Externe sau Ministerul de Interne se vor putea folosi de inteligență artificială ca să elimine potențialele amenințări potrivit proiectului.
Și dezbatem în continuare acest subiect împreună cu Andrei Popa, este specialist în IT. Mulțumim tare mult pentru intervenție. Bună dimineața!
Bună dimineața, vă mulțumesc!
Haideți să vedem, pentru că în ultimele zile este o agitație publică legată de un proiect care permite serviciilor de informații să folosească inteligența artificială. Mulți telespectatori aud probabil de acest lucru pentru prima dată, nu? Despre ce este vorba până la urmă și de ce ar trebui să intereseze pe români acest subiect?
Vă explic simplu. Vorbim despre proiectul de lege 565/2025, care a trecut deja în liniște prin Camera Deputaților. Acum e la Senat, pe repede înainte. Despre ce e vorba, le permite serviciilor noastre, de la SRI și SIE până la apărare, interne și justiție, să folosească inteligența artificială ca să prelucreze datele personale ale cetățenilor. Problema, în esență, este formularea textului, care e atât de vagă încât deschide ușa nu către apărarea cetățeanului, ci către supravegherea lui. Asta e diferența pe care vreau să o priceapă cei care ne urmăresc.
Bun, știm că întotdeauna serviciile au supravegheat oamenii, da? Până la urmă, asta este meseria celor care lucrează în aceste structuri. Ce este nou acum?
Vă răspund cu o cifră și nu o spun eu, o spune un expert în protecția datelor, Tudor Galoș. Astăzi serviciile supraveghează un număr limitat de cetățeni. Cu inteligența artificială, povestea se schimbă și, citez, pot supraveghea 100.000 de oameni simultan. 100.000. Dintr-o singură apăsare de buton. Iar inteligența artificială nici nu doarme și nici nu cere salariu. Însă acum întrebarea adevărată e, dacă serviciilor le dai o unealtă de 1000 de ori mai puternică, le pui și un control de 1000 de ori mai puternic, așa s-ar face într-o țară serioasă. Dar în textul legii asta nu se întâmplă. Le dăm puterea serviciilor, dar căpăstul nu le punem. Și aici e problema.
Pe de altă parte, înțelegem că mai este doar un pas, nu? De la supraveghere la control. S-ar putea ajunge în această situație pentru populație și unde putem reclama dacă simțim că se întâmplă asta?
Pe hârtie, da, există comisii parlamentare de control, una pentru SRI, una pentru SIE, totul bine și frumos, pe teren însă lucrurile stau altfel. Să vă dau niște cifre exacte. 4 rapoarte ale SRI pe 2021, 2022, 2023 și 2024 zac la secret în Parlament. 4. Comisia le-a aprobat, dar la vot în plen n-au mai ajuns niciodată. Ultima dată când Parlamentul a votat un raport SRI a fost în octombrie 2023 și se referea la activitatea din 2020. Păi asta numim control, iar mecanismul nou de plângere e o glumă poate proastă. Te plângi la comisie, comisia serviciul răspunde, dar nu spune nimic despre surse sau metode. Adică te invită să crezi pe cuvânt instituția pe care o reclami. Și asta nu cred că se numește un control real.
Bun, înțelegem că acest proiect nu este tocmai nou, s-a mai încercat odată adoptarea lui și despre ce este vorba mai exact?
Cred că aici se vede tot mecanismul. Proiectul a căzut la vot în Senat în decembrie. 58 de voturi din 68 necesare. Deci a picat. Și acum atenție, la 9 zile l-au băgat înapoi, aproape identic, cu alți semnatari, din PSD, PNL, USR, AUR și PACE. Toate culorile politice la grămadă pe același text. Însă cireșa de pe tort. Jurnaliștii Snoop au mers la inițiatori. Unul dintre ei, doamna senator PNL Nicoleta Pauliuc, președinta Comisiei de Apărare a Senatului, adică persoana care ar trebui să răspundă de securitatea națională, are cunoscut sincer și citez, vă dați seama că nu știu eu acum că am 60-70 de proiecte pe care le semnez. Și închei citatul. Deci, doamnă senator, dacă semnați 60-70 de proiecte și nu știți ce conține niciunul, ce faceți dumneavoastră, mă rog, în Parlamentul României?
Da, mulțumim tare mult. Andrei Popa, specialist IT, a fost...
COVID is critical because this is what convinces people to accept, to legitimize total biometric surveillance. We want to stop this epidemic. We need not just to monitor people, we need to monitor what's happening under their skin.
Those who own the data really own the future. We are reaching a point in human history that we have enough biological knowledge and we have enough computing power, and all you need in order to systematically hack millions of people is just the data. That to hack people means to know people better than they know themselves. To somebody in San Francisco, in Beijing, knows you, knows more about you than you know about yourself, about your medical condition, about your mental weaknesses, things that you did 5 years ago, 20 years ago, you completely forgot about them, they know it. Right. This is something we never faced before. Not even the KGB could do it. Right. And we are already beginning to see the emergence of such total surveillance regimes in places like Xinjiang, in places like in my own home country in Israel, we have this big laboratory of surveillance called the occupied territories, where you have 2.5 million guinea pigs of how to completely survey and control a population with very few soldiers. I mean, when you look at the numbers, it's amazing how few soldiers you need to control millions of people if you have their data.